Good afternoon. I'd like to call to order this special meeting of the Enterprise Committee. With me on the dais today are Council Members Abdi Warsami, Council Vice Chair Alondra Cano, Council Member Fletcher, Council Member Kevin Reich. I do want to point out that Council Member Lisa Goodman couldn't join us this afternoon as she's on a state board with a conflict, with a time conflict today, so she won't be able to make it today. We have two items of business before us today. The first is a public hearing on the appointment of our city coordinator. And the second is the matter around the reappointment of our city attorney. So if I may, open the public hearing on the appointment of city coordinator. This is to consider the appointment by the executive committee of Nuria Rivera Vandermeide to the appointed position of city coordinator for a 2-year term starting this year. Would anybody like to speak? Would anybody like to speak? Come on up and just give your name and address for the record, and you're welcome to.
Sure, I'm
Thank
Danny
you for coming.
Schwartzman. I own Common Roots Cafe, which is at 2558 Lindale Avenue South, and I live at 2401 Lake Place. And I'm here to speak in support of Nuria. I had the pleasure of working with her during the context of the Workplace Partnership Group, which a couple of years ago's version of that, which evaluated the sick pay ordinance and brought together a group of people with different perspectives to have an extended conversation about what that ordinance could look like. And Nuria was our sort of lead staff contact in helping us to understand the issue and bringing people together and continuing the conversation and ensuring that we move forward. And I found her to be just a tremendous asset for our group and someone who could make us understand how the policies work and really give us the opportunity to come up with the understandings that we needed to make sense of it and to understand the city processes and to drive it forward and to connect with all the different kinds of resources the city had, different departments, different perspectives, bring us all together. And as I look at the sort of job territory of this position, it seems perfectly suited to Nuria's skill sets that I personally saw of working with a very large array of people, wrangling a ton of different variables together and getting the best outcomes. Since that experience that ended a couple years ago on that committee, I've worked with her some as part of the staff, connected to the small business team, and she's been a great help there and has been very responsive to concerns and new approaches and really helped us to understand how we can really better propose new ideas and work with existing departments and people to make things happen. And I can really imagine her playing a tremendous role in convening people, bringing together different departments and helping make a more positive future for our city, which is clearly what she's very deeply committed to. So I just wanted from here to just speak my support for Nuria's nomination.
Thank you. I think that perfectly describes some of the role here. Anyone else like to speak on behalf of Nuria? Sorry, Ms. Rivera Vandermeide.
Thank you, Chair Palmisano, members of the committee. I made myself some notes so that I remain coherent, so you're going to bear with me.
We do need your name and address officially for the
No, it'll be that quick. Erik Serna here, former city employee and now with the University of Minnesota. Here, first of all, speaking on a personal capacity as a former city employee, throughout my time here at City Hall, which is a complicated place to navigate for many, I found a reliable, strategic, collaborative, and strong partner in Nuria. Always ready to listen, to engage, to get the work done through partnerships and collaboration. It's evidence on her work with minimum wage, paid sick and safe time, and her work on small business. And Nuria knows the city very well, as has been previously mentioned, and is evidenced probably by the work that she's done with many of you. Her data-driven and results-oriented professionalism are very well supplemented by her ability to connect, bring people together, and strategize to get her work done. I'm very fortunate to have worked with Nuria while at the city, and I look forward in my capacity at the University of Minnesota to working with the city coordinator's office under her leadership to build more partnerships and continue to work for the people. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Garcia Luna, we need you to put your address in with the city clerk. Thank you. Would anybody else wish to speak? Would anyone else wish to speak? With no one else here to speak, I would like to first close the public hearing and I'd like to add a point. I received a very late night email last night from our former city coordinator, Spencer Cronk, and he wrote to me in support of the appointment of Nuria Rivera Vandermeide. And one of the lines that he said is that Nuria is a proven leader that will continue to build strong, positive relationships across city operations and with the broader Minneapolis community. I think that's a perfect summary of what she's worked on and what she aspires to do in this position. Mayor Frey, before I ask if there are other council members that wish to speak, did you want to say a few words?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, I would. I'm so excited about the appointment and hopefully the confirmation of Ms. Nuria Rivera Vandermeide. We've seen firsthand the work that she's done in the city over the last several years. She's a hard worker. She has a very deep knowledge of the full city enterprise from her work as a deputy city coordinator, from her work as a department head in regulatory services, and her experience stems well beyond that. She practiced corporate litigation on the East Coast. She was in charge of Puerto Rico's prison system, which is a difficult task to say the least. But I'm most excited to say that to appoint Nuria, and that she has a very results-oriented approach, where you set the goal, and that bar might be difficult to achieve, and you might succeed and you might fail, but you set it nonetheless. And I feel that that's exactly the direction that we need to take our city right now. You know, moving beyond some of the rhetoric into some clear action oriented steps. Anybody who's worked with Ms. Rivera knows that she's a collaborator from her work as an architect of minimum wage, as well as paid as earned sick and safe time. These were controversial and difficult issues where we were charting new territory, and we are providing really an example for the rest of the state to follow. And when you're doing that kind of groundbreaking progressive work, it's not always easy, and you are herding cats in the form of myself and former council members and the mayor. It's a difficult thing to get everyone on the same page, but with the exception of maybe one person or two people, we pretty much did that, and that's an extraordinary feat. And finally, Ms. Rivera Vandermeide she's honest. She's exceedingly honest and blunt and straightforward, and that is the kind of leadership that we need in our city, and specifically in the city coordinator's office. So, Madam Chair, I'm proud to put her name forward. I would ask for all of your support on this item, and I think this will result in a great and an excellent step for this city.
Thank you.
Thank you.
With that, I will move this motion forward to approve the appointment of Nuria Rivera Vandermeide as city coordinator. Would any of my colleagues wish to speak? Councilmember Cano and then Councilmember Fletcher.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Mayor Frey. I wonder if the director could, if our city coordinator could come and take the microphone. I'm really interested. Well, first of all, I'm very supportive of this appointment, and as a Latina, I'm really excited about this, and have emailed already all my Latina elected official friends to say that this is coming up before us at the full City Council in a few days. But would love to hear from you, Nuria. You joined the city, I think, when I was working for then Council Vice President Robert Lilligren. I think I remember at the time they were talking about you, and you had joined the city around that time. And would love to just hear what you think are the top three things that make this work exciting for you, and that make this successful for you. Because I'm constantly in awe at the amount of work that you have to manage, the amount of relationships you have to sustain, and how you help to keep our city on track. So would love to hear just, what makes you thrive in this environment, and what you think are the top three qualities that make this position a success for you and for the city.
Chair Palmisano, members of the committee, Mayor Frey, thank you so much for, first of all, your confidence in me and your putting my name forward. It's certainly appreciated, and I hope that council feels the same way. Councilmember Cano, I'd say that there's a couple of things that really make this work enriching to me, and part of those, a large part of that, are the people that are here. It's the people, I think, in the city of Minneapolis, many of them either from our own department, from other departments, our partners externally, from our small businesses, now Erik, who's at the university, the residents of this city, being able to make an impact on people's lives drives me. I think it drives all of us here. And we all contribute that in different ways. So I'm happy to play a role in that. It's what excites me about getting to work and working on these complex issues, is knowing that they're not about something ethereal. It's not about just talk. Getting them to fruition so that they could actually impact community is truly important to me. The phenomenal men and women of this city, they are so talented. They are so committed. They work so hard. And we don't always get the results that we want to, and we keep trying. We don't always do it in a timely manner, and we keep trying. And I think I just can't express how excited it is for me to stand here and represent that work. And then finally, I'll say that this is a city that strives to do good things in complex times. We have some disparities that we all know about. I'm proud to stand here as a Latina, as a Boricua, as a woman. We've got some representatives here of the 29% Club, and happy to be their executive sponsor. Really proud of that work as we move forward on equity and trying to make outcomes better for all of us, no matter where we are in our journey. And so really excited to move that work forward. That excites me, that this city does not shy away from those difficult issues, that we may not always get it right. We may have to go back and tweak it, and we may have to really dig in and say we're going to do this no matter what the national climate is. But this is a city that is making a difference, and I'm really proud to be a part of it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Fletcher.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm very pleased that we have this nomination, and I'm very pleased that you want the job, because this is a really hard thing I'm about to vote to have you do. Coordinating the city is so important, because the city works at its best when we're all working together, and when every department is working aligned with the changes that other departments are trying to drive, and that when the ideas that come from this council are really uniformly and consistently, moved forward. So we're not just talking about equity, but we're actually incorporating it into the work in a consistent and coherent way. And I feel like a lot of that really is going to flow through your office. And so I really appreciate your willingness to take on tough stuff in the past. I really appreciate your willingness to take on tough stuff in the future, and to keep us focused on real data and real metrics that show that we're actually achieving the things we're trying to achieve, or that we're not, and that we need to shift our strategies. But we're really counting on you to do an awful lot. But I'm happy to vote yes to have you do that for us. So thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Reich.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and want to thank the mayor for putting forward this strong candidate. With all these words that get thrown around somewhat metaphorically, wrangling, wrestling, herding. I don't know if we should have some kind of hat that comes with the job. But nonetheless, it's a difficult job, but it is really the essential job that makes Minneapolis' system work. We are notoriously dispersed in our decision-making processes, and many people think that's a challenge to get things done. But when you do pull together those different voices and those different forces and those different positions into one commonality, it's really powerful. It's the most powerful thing. And so the orchestrator of that, of course, has always been the coordinator's position, and it's a great challenge, but it is really what makes Minneapolis, and it's what makes Minneapolis tick. So I'll be very happy to support this, and I certainly hope it's more pleasant than working in the penal code system of Puerto Rico by comparison, even though it's challenging. Time will tell. All right. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Councilmember Warsame.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you to Mayor Jacob Frey for appointing Nuria to this position. And I'd just like to echo what my colleagues have said. It's been a pleasure working with you, and I look forward to many more years as a coordinator. So you have my vote as well. Thank you.
So with that, I don't believe we need a roll call. All in favor of this appointment, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? No. Congratulations, Ms. Rivera-Vandermeide, our new city coordinator. Our next item of business, yep. Our next item of business today is the reappointment of our city attorney. I'd like to provide first some background and context, specifically the order of events here today. First, Mayor Frey submitted his nomination to reappoint Ms. Siegel to the Executive Committee as required under the city charter. The Executive Committee forwarded that nomination with a favorable recommendation. This nomination was heard by the Executive Committee twice due to some technical issues. In both instances, that nomination was met with favorable action. In other words, there were never any negative or no votes on her nomination to be reappointed. There were 2 affirmative votes and 2 abstentions, which don't count at the first meeting. And there were 4 affirmative votes and 1 abstention on the second pass through the Executive Committee. The Enterprise Committee conducted a public hearing on the nomination. That public hearing was continued to provide additional opportunity for the public to engage on the proposal. In addition to the 2 formal hearings, the public had the opportunity to reach out to council members and provide their input. The public comments received through both the public hearing and from individual and group contacts with individual policymakers were added to the public record prepared by the clerk's office, and that's available in the legislative management system. The public hearing was officially closed at the last meeting of the Enterprise Committee, and so here we are today. The objective at this meeting is the Enterprise Committee is tasked with formulating a recommendation on the nomination to reappoint Susan Siegel to the position of City Attorney. That recommendation will be submitted to the full City Council for its consideration and action at its regular meeting on Friday, March 23rd. So first I will call for any final comments from council members or the mayor at the dais here. Is there anything you wanted to share on this, Mr. Mayor?
Madam Chair, I've provided several, maybe 4 or 5 supporting remarks of Ms. Siegel at this point. I don't know that it's necessary for me to reiterate them to the council again, but I do ask for your support.
Thank you. Councilmember Cano.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to share a few thoughts, and I know that we'll take an official vote of a full vote on the time the council meets. But I just wanted to say that I'm very much in favor of this appointment, and I have heard from folks who have been emailing in and coming to the public hearings, and overwhelmingly we see a sea of support for our city attorney. So I'm really excited to cast my vote for Susan, who has been doing incredible work for the Little Earth community, who did come and testify. Additionally, for all the work that we just recently heard on eradicating commercial sexual exploitation and criminal justice reform. So I'm excited about this appointment and do look forward to casting my vote and continuing to work with her to lead our city. So thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Fletcher.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm also voting in support today. And just want to say I have heard from a lot of people on this appointment, and probably about 2 to 1 in support from my constituents. So I'm certainly voting with my constituents. And a lot of people have seen a lot of very positive work by our city attorney. Also want to say that, we just heard in the Public Safety Committee before this committee today an update on work to improve the way our city does diversion, to improve the way our city reduces the use of jail as an outcome in arrests. And some of the very good work that's happening out of the city attorney's office is actually very directly addressing some of the issues being raised by people who are asking me to vote no today. And in many cases, the things that have people frustrated with the city attorney's office are really policy issues that it's on all of us to address, that are enacted by the city attorney's office, but are really not in Susan Siegel's power to unilaterally change. And so I think it's very, very important that as we move forward and sort of think about how we're doing this work, we're counting on excellent work from Susan Siegel in the future. We're counting on the city attorney's office to continue to work with us to reduce the racial inequity in our criminal justice system. And I'm confident that a yes vote is the way to make that happen. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Warsame.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And again, thank you to Mayor Jacob Frey for reappointing Susan Siegel as our city attorney. And my own experience with Susan is somebody who's brilliant legal mind who runs her department very well. Her staff are very confident of her and do a great deal of work for the city. And even when you saw the public testimony, Madam Chair, you would see that the people who came to testify on behalf of Susan Siegel, you had members from Little Earth, you had members from the East African community, you had members from the African American community, you had the people who make up the most vulnerable members of our society coming here testifying on behalf of Susan. And that itself, gives, should give us confidence on the council to continue the good work that she's been doing. And I'm very supportive of her reappointment, and I would love my colleagues to also support the choice for Susan to continue as our city attorney.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak? I will just add that we are so very fortunate that you, Susan Siegel, also want this job. So with that, may I present this motion and ask us to vote on it? This is to reappoint Susan Siegel as our city attorney. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you. That result is unanimous. So I want to reiterate that this committee's recommendation will be submitted to the full council for its action during the regular meeting on Friday, March 23rd. And with that, we will be adjourned. Thank you.